In a candid interview with a leading American news channel, President Volodymyr Zelensky shared his reflections following his recent conversation with former President Donald Trump. The interview took place in a modern television studio set against a backdrop of softly lit American and Ukrainian symbols, reflecting the intertwined destinies of the two nations. Zelensky appeared calm yet determined as he recounted the events of that fateful meeting at the White House and expressed his deep commitment to preserving Ukraine's sovereignty and dignity. Zelensky began by emphasizing that the discussion with Trump had been a challenging yet necessary confrontation. He explained that his primary objective was to secure a meaningful partnership that would not only provide economic support, but also uphold the principles of respect and mutual understanding. He described the conversation as an intense dialogue in which emotions ran high on both sides. According to him, the former American leader had employed a tone that was both confrontational and dismissive, insisting that Ukraine should display more gratitude for considerable assistance provided by the United States over many years. In his view, such an approach undermined the spirit of partnership that is essential for forging sustainable international relations. Throughout the interview, Zelensky stressed that Ukraine's struggle is not a matter of entitlement, but a fight for survival and self-determination. He recounted how, during the discussion, Trump had repeatedly suggested that Ukraine's position was weak and that its progress depended solely on American generosity. Zelensky, however, firmly rejected that narrative. He argued that Ukraine's resilience had been built on years of hard work, sacrifice, and an unyielding desire to maintain national independence in the face of relentless external pressures. The president elaborated that every step taken by his nation, every negotiation held, was aimed at protecting the dignity and future of his people. In describing the atmosphere during the meeting, Zelensky recalled that tension was palpable in the room. The discussion had quickly shifted from policy details to personal critiques, with both leaders exchanging pointed remarks. Zelensky noted that while he remained respectful and focused on Ukraine's long-term interests, Trump's approach had been characterized by blunt assertions about the magnitude of American support. He recalled hearing remarks about the vast sums of aid provided to Ukraine and a claim that, without such assistance, the conflict would have been resolved much earlier. For Zelensky, these statements did not capture the full reality of Ukraine's struggle. He pointed out that the nation's fight for freedom and its efforts to reclaim its territory were not matters that could be reduced to simple calculations of financial input. The president also reflected on the broader implications of the debate. He observed that the conversation was emblematic of a deeper disconnect between two worldviews. On one side, there was a perspective that equated aid with authority, a view that risked reducing complex geopolitical relationships to transactional exchanges. On the other, there was a belief that true partnerships must be built on mutual respect, where both sides acknowledge their contributions and share responsibility for the outcomes. Zelensky argued that this latter approach was crucial for establishing a lasting peace and for empowering Ukraine to shape its own destiny. During the interview, Zelensky recounted his own measured responses during the debate. He explained that he had deliberately chosen his words with care, seeking to articulate a vision that went beyond mere economics. He spoke passionately about the need for a comprehensive approach to peace, one that included economic development, security guarantees, and diplomatic engagement. His vision was not simply to secure additional aid, but to create a framework in which Ukraine could invest in its future, strengthen its institutions, and build a more robust defense system. For him, every negotiation was a step toward creating a state that could stand on its own feet in a turbulent world. In his narration, Zelensky also touched on the subject of accountability. He expressed disappointment that the meeting had devolved into a clash of rhetoric rather than a constructive discussion. He lamented that the emphasis had been placed on past aid and perceived ingratitude instead of addressing the concrete challenges facing Ukraine. Despite these frustrations, he reiterated that the dialogue had provided important lessons. He stressed that Ukraine must continue to insist on fairness, and that any future negotiations should be rooted in a balanced understanding of the contributions made by all parties. His remarks underscored a steadfast belief in the value of dialogue and compromise, even when discussions become heated. Another key point in the interview was Zelensky's call for international solidarity. He underscored that Ukraine's challenges are not isolated, but resonate with the struggles of many nations seeking to preserve their independence and maintain democratic values. By sharing his experiences, He hoped to inspire a broader conversation about the responsibilities of global leaders in times of crisis. He expressed gratitude for support that had been offered by various countries and stressed that Ukraine's fight was part of a larger battle for freedom and justice around the world. Zelensky's tone throughout the interview was both reflective and resolute. He spoke with a measured cadence that conveyed his deep understanding of the stakes involved. His words carried the weight of a leader who has borne the burden of national hardships, yet remains optimistic about the future. He expressed confidence that despite the setbacks encountered during the conversation with Trump, the spirit of resilience that defines Ukraine would prevail. He concluded this portion of the interview by reaffirming his commitment to finding common ground and by calling on all partners to work together in the pursuit of a peaceful and prosperous future. In his account, Zelensky made it clear that the debate had reinforced his belief in the importance of sovereignty and self-reliance. He stressed that while external support was invaluable, Ukraine must never lose sight of its own agency. His message was a reminder that every nation, regardless of its challenges, must be allowed to determine its own path without being dictated by others. With quiet determination, he pledged to continue negotiating on behalf of his people, seeking arrangements that honor the dignity and aspirations of his country. In the second part of the interview, President Zelensky delved deeper into the personal impact of the conversation and its broader geopolitical ramifications. His reflections were marked by a tone of introspection and a steadfast determination to learn from every experience, even those marked by discord and tension. The president spoke candidly about the emotional toll that such high-stakes negotiations can take on a leader and on the collective psyche of a nation that has endured prolonged conflict. Zelensky began by acknowledging complexities inherent in engaging with figures who possess vastly different approaches to diplomacy. He noted that while Trump's style may have been effective in some contexts, it was not conducive to building the kind of respectful and equitable partnership that Ukraine desperately needs. The president emphasized that the dialogue, though difficult, had provided him with valuable insights into the challenges of international negotiations. He stated that every exchange, even those fraught with disagreement, contributes to a deeper understanding of the interests and motivations that drive global politics. Reflecting on the exchange, Zelensky recounted moments during the conversation when he felt that the focus on the history of American aid overshadowed the pressing realities on the ground in Ukraine. He expressed frustration that the narrative was being dominated by discussions of past support rather than a forward-looking plan that addressed the nation's immediate needs. For him, the true measure of a partnership lies not in the magnitude of past assistance, but in the willingness of both parties to engage in genuine, forward-thinking dialogue. His remarks underscored a vision of international cooperation that is built on shared responsibility and a mutual commitment to progress. Throughout this part of the interview, Zelensky was careful to avoid placing blame on any single party. Instead, he painted a picture of a complex geopolitical landscape in which miscommunications and differing expectations are inevitable. He acknowledged that the conversation had exposed fault lines in the way that support is perceived and delivered. In his view, the situation called for a recalibration of how international partnerships are forged, one that moves beyond transactional exchanges and toward a more integrated and respectful collaboration. He pointed out that the challenges faced by Ukraine are emblematic of a broader struggle for self-determination that many nations around the world are experiencing. As he elaborated on these themes, Zelensky also reflected on the importance of leadership during times of crisis. He noted that a leader's ability to remain composed, articulate a clear vision, and stand firm in the face of adversity is critical to inspiring confidence both domestically and internationally. He recalled the moments during the debate when he had to carefully choose his words, ensuring that his responses were both measured and resolute. His narrative conveyed a sense of personal responsibility to his citizens, to his nation's ideals, and to the international community that resonated deeply with viewers. One of the key topics Zelensky addressed was the future of Ukraine's relationship with the United States. He made it clear that while the recent conversation had been a setback in some respects, it did not diminish the long-standing bond between the two countries. Instead, he expressed optimism that the issues raised during the debate would lead to a more nuanced and balanced approach in future negotiations. He envisioned a relationship where both parties actively listen to each other's concerns and work collaboratively to overcome differences. His words were a call to action for American policymakers to move beyond rhetoric and engage in meaningful dialogue that truly reflects the complexities of the situation in Ukraine. Zelensky also spoke about the role of the media and public opinion in shaping the discourse surrounding international affairs. He noted that the conversation with Trump had generated significant media attention, with many outlets focusing on the dramatic exchanges and heated rhetoric. While he recognized the power of the media to inform and influence, he urged viewers to look beyond the sensational headlines and consider the deeper issues at stake. He emphasized that the debate was not just about personalities or past actions, but about the future of the nation and the pursuit of peace in a region that has long been plagued by conflict. His call for a more informed and thoughtful public discussion was a recurring theme in his interview. In concluding this segment, Zelensky reflected on the lessons learned from the experience. He expressed a firm belief that every challenge presents an opportunity for growth and improvement. The conversation, with all its intensity and emotional weight, had reaffirmed his commitment to building a future where Ukraine stands as a sovereign and resilient nation. He reiterated that the path forward would require both courage and cooperation, a willingness to engage in difficult conversations, and a readiness to embrace new strategies for achieving peace and prosperity. With quiet determination, Zelensky urged his fellow citizens and international partners to remain focused on a long-term goal of a stable, secure, and just world. His parting words were a reminder that while disagreements and setbacks are an inevitable part of any significant negotiation, they should never deter the pursuit of progress. The president's message was clear. Ukraine will continue to strive for self-reliance and mutual respect, and it will persist in its efforts to secure a partnership that honors the dignity of all involved. As the interview drew to a close, Zelensky's tone remained hopeful and resolute. He expressed gratitude for support that had been shown by many around the world and reiterated his belief that, through continued dialogue and understanding, even the most challenging disputes can be resolved. His words served as both a reflection on the recent events and a visionary statement for the future of Ukraine-United States relations, a future that, despite its obstacles, holds a promise of genuine and enduring partnership. In a follow-up statement that resonated across international media, President Zelensky firmly declared that Ukraine's sovereignty is non-negotiable and that his nation would never be sold or compromised for political or economic gain. Speaking with unwavering conviction from a modest studio setting, he emphasized that Ukraine is not a commodity to be traded, but a proud, independent people with a rich history and an unbreakable spirit. We have endured countless hardships and fought for our freedom for generations, he asserted, his voice resolute and steady. Our land, our culture, and our identity are sacred. They are not for sale, nor can they be bartered away in exchange for short-term benefits. Zelensky's words were imbued with the weight of experience and the determination of a leader who has witnessed the struggle of his people firsthand. He recalled the sacrifices made by millions who fought to preserve Ukraine's independence and highlighted that every challenge had only strengthened their resolve to protect the nation's dignity. There will be no compromise when it comes to our future, he stated. Any attempt to reduce Ukraine to a mere asset, to treat our country as if it were a negotiable entity, is not only an insult to our past, but a betrayal of our future. He went on to warn that external pressures or coercive tactics by any international power would not sway Ukraine's course. Our destiny lies in our own hands, and we will not allow our sovereignty to be diminished by those who seek to impose their own agendas, he declared. Zelensky emphasized that Ukraine's commitment to freedom and self-determination was absolute. We are determined to build a future based on mutual respect and equality, where our nation stands as a beacon of hope and resilience. We reject any notion that our identity or our land can be bought or sold. In a powerful closing, the president reaffirmed that Ukraine's strength comes from its people, united by a common dream of a free and prosperous future. His words sent a clear message to the world. Ukraine remains an indivisible, sovereign nation, and its people will fight to preserve their heritage and secure their destiny for generations to come.